So city versus towns, because both of you have started in the cities and migrated to the towns or moved from the town into the city. What's your version? Or is it like which one you'd prefer? Because people do ask, I mean, where should I start? I think everyone have their own perspective. I kind of let them make their own decisions. But what are your thoughts?
So I would say, one of the things which, I mean, at least doctors I know coming from Pakistan, they have this bias that all the good training, all the good things are actually happening in big university hospitals and the big cities, because this is what happens in Pakistan. And if you need good training, you need to end up in a big city, in a big university hospital. Otherwise, the periphery and the villages and all that, you might not get that level of exposure. But what the first thing is to understand that, is UK's rural areas or the rural settings are actually not that bad. They are fairly good in terms of the facilities. They are also sometimes very good in terms of their training opportunities, their hospital, the environment of the hospital. I have worked in big university hospitals, and I've also worked in small DGHs and small psychiatric teams which are scattered in the community. And I think you get more personal care or personal relationships when you're working in a small team in a small town, because people are nicer to you. They know each other as well. There's a whole community feel there as well, and they look after each other. In a bigger hospitals, bigger university hospitals, you find that everybody is just like very busy and just go on the go all the time. But then, having said that, it's also true that big university hospital will have opportunities. They will have more maybe subspecialties of psychiatry. Maybe they will have more specialist interests. They will have more specialist teams than working in the community or in the rural setting. So, I mean, I have worked in Wales, in different rural setting in Wales, in South Wales, many different trusts. I'm currently working in Bristol, which is a big city, relatively big city. So I would just say to people, don't be scared of the fact, that's when sometimes people get a job offer and then they put it on Google and say, oh my God, this is a very rural setting. I might not, my life would be ruined while I'll be working in a village. It's not the same village as, one of the good things about UK is that wherever rural setting you are in, within a drive of 45 minutes or an hour, there's a big city near you. This is a very good thing about UK, I find, which is something, unfortunately, this luxury is not there if you're working in US or Canada or Australia. Their rural settings are actually if you're away from a big city, you are like 4 hours flight away from a big city. We are not that. We are a very small country in that sense. So, just come with open mind in that sense as well, that don't have this bias that only good things are happening in the bigger cities and the smaller cities are not worth it.
Actually, that takes me back. I did my basic surgical training, and part of it I was in clinically in South Wales, and I loved it because, as Sir Raja said, everybody knew everyone, and then it was really good time. Manan, your version. You moved from a town into a city now to
Yeah,
London.
I moved from Northeast Lincolnshire, Grimsby to London, and I think it depends on where one is in their lives. Say, I know a lot of people moved with their partner and children or child. Then you've got to factor in the cost of living and the cost of everything as well. Because initially, when you're moving, it's likely that only one of the partners is earning. Of course, the other partner then gradually builds things up, and you're looking at all of those things. It's usually cheaper to live in towns than it is in cities. There's also, of course, an element of a small town, vibe and everyone knowing everyone, which is a good and warm place to start off, especially, which I reaped all the fruits of. I was very lucky in the initial couple of years of me being in the UK. The fact that, especially during CESR, the fact that everything was within a mile or two. And if I wanted to go to the liaison team, I could do that. If I wanted to go to the forensic team, I could do that, gather that evidence during my SPA time. And all of that, if in a bigger trust, uh, I completely agree that a bigger trust would again probably have structured programs around that as well. But it's about what works for that person. If you've got a trust with whom, you've got people who uh, uh, say Naveen knows and Naveen has those relationships established, or if you know the CEO, or if you know the medical director, the clinical director, or a couple of the senior consultants there, that is extremely important, I think, in rather than whether you're moving to a town or city, according to me, in my personal opinion, because then you've got that mentorship there. You've got that trust there that, okay, for the first step, because there are 1,000 challenges that you're navigating in the first year and a half. And in that, if your quality of life, if you don't spend the first 6 months in London, it's fine. for your first job, because if you can save up that extra bit of money, you can have that sense of familiarity, invariably, we all make mistakes, especially in the first few years of our careers. And being in a position where you have that little bit of a wiggle room and that headspace where if you make a mistake, you know that you've got that protection and safety net around you, that is something that I value much more.